Welcome to Work Reborn, live from Barcelona, brought to you by Lenovo. Work Reborn is a research series surveying over 600 senior IT leaders worldwide to uncover the key to creating a productive digital workplace. Last report, we talked about using AI to work smarter and stay safer. Now we're moving from AI readiness to AI reality, where technology and human connection are reshaping how we work and thrive in this new era of work, or as we like to call it, Work Reborn. Let's get started. Hello, Emil. How are you doing today?
I'm very good. And yourself?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for coming by our
Thanks for
Lenovo
having me.
booth today. We are doing a podcast called Work Reborn today. It's all about how we're bringing new life into the modern workplace, especially when it comes to technology and AI. So would you mind introducing yourself for our listeners, who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. So my name is Emil. I'm from Denmark. I work as a management consultant for Implement Consulting Group and spend most of my time helping clients design IT strategies and IT operating models, digital operating models.
What has changed for you in the past year in regards to how you start your strategy with your clients? Is there, I don't know, I heard there's this thing called AI. I don't know if that's affected your strategy or not.
Yeah, definitely. So whereas traditionally we've been starting from, there's a new starting point to where you
Yeah.
start the strategy process, right? Everyone wants to talk about AI and they want to talk about cybersecurity, right?
Mhm.
So those are kind of two focus areas that you need to have an opinion about when you start a strategy process. That has changed a lot. That's been emphasized more during the past, I would say, year or perhaps even year and a half or
Yeah.
so. Yeah. So whereas you could say previously there's been like a blank page, or you could say a wider
Like
array of
nuanced opportunity.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, areas that could be potential focus areas. Now there's at least these two that are givens. Yeah, and especially AI, right? We meet a lot of CIO tech executives that are being, I wouldn't say forced, but at least expected by their leadership team to have an opinion towards AI and how AI can support the particular business in achieving, business outcomes and
Yeah.
and value.
Let's talk about that AI strategy a little bit more. From our research, we found that there's this new trend or topic emerging called invisible IT. And what that means is it's the way to automate or create IT procedures that operate so efficiently that they're almost invisible to the teams using them. So, for example, invisible IT, we have talked with other podcast guests who have said, in lieu of, support tickets that go in, one person has to submit it, fill it out, somebody responds to it, then the action is created. There would be some like agentic AI that can automatically detect these types of issues, resolve them for things like as simple as a password reset,
Yeah.
and then connect with that individual to solve the issue and then notify the IT
Yeah.
leadership of that issue.
Yeah.
So that's one example of invisible IT. So
Yeah.
we're saying that AI in this regard is related to how we implement it to optimize IT procedures. And IT is a vast term.
Yeah.
So if you are looking to strategize a plan, in what way do you think AI could be used in IT support or operations to help better improve the overall efficiency and act as that invisible IT support for that company?
Yeah, that makes sense. I was just curious as to whether it was IT processes or business processes, but
Yeah.
I get what you mean. I think the way I would, when strategizing around it, it would be, what I believe would be important is to kind of identify where you could say the biggest improvement potentials were. And tickets could be one thing. It could be focus in your inbox in Outlook could be another thing, or whatever. But I think it's the important thing is that you do it with purpose, really, and that
Intentionally.
yeah, exactly, intentionally, and that you don't just pick whatever sounds nice when it comes to AI, but actually have a look at what might deliver the most impact in your organization when it comes to implementing AI.
That's a very good point. I think there's
I don't know, it's not a clear answer, but
no, no,
I
no.
think
We're
it's a,
elaborating on it because what we're trying to say here is when we are looking to implement AI within any process, it's better to distinguish what exactly we want it to do
yeah.
rather than saying it's a blanket fix all term. Because I think when AI first came out, everyone was just super excited and we're like, yeah, like it's going to fix everything. Let's put this here and this there. But we're all learning that we call it the distinction between AI readiness and AI reality. Like the reality of it is like we still have a long way to go.
Correct. Yeah, exactly.
Tell me a little bit about, if you do anything in regards to on the non-technical side, but on the leadership side, advising on like change management or things like that. Change management is a huge topic right now
Very much so.
because, well, change is everywhere in this
Yeah.
industry.
Yeah.
So what have you noticed or seen with that in other organizations?
Yeah, very much so. And change management, it's a lot of what we, especially at where I work at Implement, that we really care about because it's like alpha omega to realizing the benefits that you actually set out to achieve in your strategy. So because if all initiatives that you're describing, detailing out in your strategy are not, you could say, the value of those initiatives are not realized, then it doesn't matter anyway.
Right,
And I think definitely we've seen, I wouldn't say revolutions, but markets are evolving all the time, right?
right.
And I think AI is has just accelerated the
The pace.
exactly the pace
Yeah.
at which markets are evolving or businesses are evolving, and that obviously demands a lot from how we consider change management. And I think even talking about change management as like a separate as a separate topic to AI, so saying that we have AI and then on the side we need to do change management, I think that might even become
Is that like problematic to separate the two? Do you think
yeah,
they're both
I think
like
they should
hand
be
in hand?
embedded. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. They should
yeah.
go hand in hand. Yeah, because it's. I think you need to design for the change and not just. It needs to be embedded as part of the initiative, the AI initiatives that are running or that you kind of embark on in your organization. Yeah.
I love how you
So
said you need to design for the change.
yeah,
Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
yeah. So what I mean is that traditionally when you run initiatives, you would say you have like this, you would have an initiative that becomes a range of projects, and in order to make the most of that, you will run a change management, you could say, track on the side, right, where you design training, you design a bit of communication and stuff. But I think with like AI changes what we do in business so fundamentally that you cannot, like, the pace by which AI changes what we do is so high that we cannot consider, or it becomes really difficult to consider change management as a separate,
Entity.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it needs to be designed as part of the process, in lack
Yes.
of a better word. Yeah.
Tell me about the people side of the change management, like when it comes to the employee experience and the teams. Like if leaders need to better embed and design for the change, of course, within the operational systems and procedures, like that can be done. But like, what's the most important thing you believe would need to be done in order to better enhance and empower the teams when you're considering that change?
I think the best thing you can do as a leader is really include your team in AI, and to ensure AI adoption is to include your team in, or your organization or your department or whichever leader you are, in what kind of AI use cases should we actually put money on. So give your team a, you could say, a voice, and because they are the experts. You might be the leader, but that doesn't mean that you're like the expert in the field in within which you're operating, right? So your team or your department would be the ones who actually have the hands-on experience and experience the challenges where AI actually can provide solutions. So hearing their opinion is, I think, is fundamental to delivering, or you could say, sustaining the change that AI that you need to do in order to realize the value of AI.
So, would you agree that when you design for the change, you're also designing for the people?
Very much so. Yes, very much so. I think you can't separate like your business from your people. That's yeah,
It's impossible.
that's impossible. Yeah, so for sure.
I think it's interesting that you mentioned that because we interviewed or surveyed rather over 600 senior IT leaders, and only 12% of that pool said that AI would reduce their team's headcount. a majority said that would not be a factor that they would consider. So for me, when we're talking about change management, I think when we're talking about change management, it's not saying like, maybe the layperson might hear that and say, "Oh, we're letting a bunch of people go." No, we're not saying that at all. We're saying that we want to like better optimize to enhance those tools and empower the team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that goes to perhaps my point before, is that you need to design for the change, because the change that AI can bring about is so fundamental from what we've seen before, right? So if you're implementing a new ERP, CRM system, whatever, the change management part would be a lot about, upskilling in the new system or the new ways of working in the system or in the application. But you can't do the same thing with AI, because that changes like fundamentally what you do. Perhaps you don't even need to use this application anymore. Perhaps you need to, manage an agent, and then you're suddenly just a leader for, you could say, an AI agent or whatever, right? So it's the change is more fundamental than what we've seen before, and that's what I mean by you need to design for
That's
that
awesome.
change. So yeah, back to that
Okay,
point.
to round out our conversation, I have a question for you, just your personal opinion overall. The podcast is called Work Reborn. What does Work Reborn mean to you? Some people usually take it as like what the real future of work is. Another way to say digital transformation. One person even said that digital transformation is like an outdated term at this point because we're already transforming. So if you think about like the workplace as a whole, workplace solutions, or just like the environment in which we as people end up working, like what does that rebirth of the workplace look like for you?
Yeah, so I'm thinking a lot about, like, what first came to mind was like a reincarnation of how
Yeah.
we, imagine or think work, basically. And I think that's kind of along the lines where I'm going. And I guess it speaks much to you could say, the theme for this year's conference, right? The agents of change. And also back to my point earlier that the changes we're seeing at the moment with AI and with agentic AI are so fundamentally different that I guess in some ways you could, like, a reincarnation of the work we're doing is not like such a stretch.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
I guess that's my best take.
So in your opinion, Work Reborn is a reincarnation of the way we've done work.
Yeah, and think work. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the way we do and think about work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's well said. Thank you so much, Emil.
Thanks.
So if anyone is interested in learning more about the Work Reborn report, make sure you check out our report by downloading it via the link in the description below. And if you're watching us on YouTube, a QR code is magically going to appear on the screen here. Make sure you scan it to grab a copy for yourself. And Emil, thank you so much for taking the time to be on this podcast.
Thanks for having me.
It's been
It's
a
a
pleasure.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Work Reborn, powered by Lenovo. Lenovo is turning readiness into reality, empowering people, technology, and businesses to move forward together. If you've enjoyed this episode, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel or follow us on Apple or Spotify to continue the conversation on how we're bringing new life to the modern workplace. Thanks for watching.
Lenovo.